You're strong.
I know. Just like in the movies.
Welcome to SuperWonder Legacy. I am Jared. I am here with Britt once again. What's up, Britt?
Hello, hello.
Today, we're finally doing it, ladies and gents.
Finally.
Long-time listeners of this show know that we referenced the Superpowered Documentary so many times that we just decided, let's just fast-track it and do the episode finally so we can actually discuss it. So here we are, ladies and gentlemen. We are discussing the Superpowered DC story documentary. So here we go. But you had something you wanted to add, Britt?
Oh, yeah. I'm just saying that this is, I mean, we reference it all the time, and our opinions or, you know, our conversations is based on, yes, our opinions, but it's also facts too. And the facts come from this documentary. And it's kind of like, also with the research that, you know, with preparing for this, I realized that it seemed like not a lot of people have actually watched it, or like it has been buried with
it was
whatever.
Probably buried because of how congratulatory to the New 52 it is.
And it actually states facts. So it's the fact that we reference this, and it's probably like, okay, what are they talking about? You know, so we're basically doing free promo for this.
You're welcome, DC.
Yeah, that people actually need to watch this documentary because it's very insightful. It kind of sugarcoats a little bit, but is basically telling, you know, how messed up DC has been for decades.
And my only problem with the documentary is when they have like Phil Jimenez and JM DeMatteis talking about, well, there's a movement in our fans to get politics out of our comics, but the comics have always been political. And I'm like, do you really have to wade into that right now and attack the fans? Well, yes, this is DC. So well done for keeping to the company standard.
Right. I mean, yes, politics have been in comics for a very long time. That is how the characters were created. It's just the fact of it's in the real world, in reality, all of that has become so complex. Even, you know, people's belief, lifestyle, perspective, just in general. It is so complex that we can't actually just say, well, you know, this and this was like this then. But some of the things that comics had has not aged very well at all, you know. So, and you have these sensitive, it is the fans sometimes, but also the fans becomes the writers too. So the writers have their own bias, and it can either be negative or positive. And that whole conversation is something, it seemed like it was oversimplified, and that's something that needs to be actually broken down and, you know, understand the complexity of that.
Yeah. So the beginning of DC was founded by a cavalry officer in World War I. Well, DC at the time it was called National Periodicals, which I'm like, it's kind of funny. I get the feeling that they later changed it to DC because of how reliant on Batman the company would become, but that comes later in the story. But yeah, so he wanted to publish original stories, and I think this was like a first of the time because previously comics were really just in the newspapers. There wasn't like they would publish original stories in like floppy form, in other words.
Right. He basically like all of his real world adventures um as an officer, he basically kind of fantasized, made it into a fantasy, kind of more extravagant than it was. So that's where the original content came from.
Which was super cool.
Yeah, that is very creative, and it's the fact that it comes from. I mean, if you want to say is self-insertion in a very positive way,
Yeah,
and
that's true.
also it's biographical too, you
Hmm.
know,
And
like
that's
on a
cool.
next level, which is yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, because you're using you're using like another medium that people enjoy to like tell like of like war and stuff, so people maybe understand war a little better.
Yeah, and it's in the fact that it's still from his perspective, like his, and it makes it known that this is what I dealt with, this is my view, this is what I went through, but I'm either going to show you the harshness of it, but also put it in a fantastical um way, and that is what comics is supposed to be. It's supposed to be real world, you know, things that happen, but on a grander scale, fantastical type, you know, way. But I think that definitely has been lost, especially with DC, because even though you want the stories to be set in reality a little bit more, they make it so boring and bland when they want to belittle the fantastical part.
Yeah, because here's the thing, and the documentary gets into it a little later, but the thing about it is that the more reality based, that's Marvel. DC is the gods amongst men, so they are by their very nature the more fantastical company, so they shouldn't ignore it.
Right. But yet we have, here we go, in present day, they are ignoring it.
Well, yeah.
So um now we have him. It was pretty fast. I mean, he was so creative that he only took 3 years to start up the business. Now, the fact that it's called DC Comics, Detective Comics, I still within I don't even think that was actually explained of why it's like a double thing, but that's that.
So
But
that is, and remember that the documentary also goes into that they needed a hit. They needed one book that would like take them to new heights, and it became Action Comics. And this is where we
which
get to the origin of the Big Blue Boy Scout.
which was very interesting to know because I thought Action Comics was Schuster and Seagal. I thought it was their
Mm-mm.
title. It was actually given as Action Comics is actually an anthology. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't just a Superman book.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of the revisionist um of today is like, okay, this is why this documentary has not been talked about because Action Comics, they really made it seem like it is solely a Superman book. It's not an anthology. But then when you go back, you have Zatanna's father.
Satara,
Um
yeah.
he debuted in it. You have other characters that have debuted. They haven't had that spotlight that Superman had, but at the same time, when people say that Lois was right there within Action Comics 1, and it's like, okay, well, Action Comics was an anthology, so other characters debut just as,
Yeah, she's not
just at the
that she's
same
not as
time.
special as you
She's
think
not
she is.
special.
It's hilarious. And
Yeah,
speaking of like self insertion, I mean, to a degree, I liked what they brought up for like why they created Superman, because it's like this one dude was like lonely, he didn't have girlfriends, so he thought, hey, wouldn't it be kind of cool if I was actually like this big badass but no one knew about it? And that's like how the Clark Kent origin came
about. And then and Schuster was bullied.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he basically, the idea of Golden Age Superman was he was this, that Clark Kent was the disguise for who he actually was, as this person that has special abilities. And also, he bullied bullies. He became,
Mm-hmm.
like this idea for kids to be able to stand up for themselves. And also, the self-inserted nerds or whatever, that maybe you can get the girl, or even if you aren't able to get the girl, that you still are a hero or something like that.
Or the most beautiful princess in all of existence would actually end up falling in love with you, but you'll be married to a really annoying reporter.
Honestly,
I had to.
and the thing is, the expectations of this documentary that I had was very negative when it first came out, because I was thinking that yes, they will try to prop up Lois. I thought that they would throw New 52 under the bus,
Yeah, legit. I was watching it and I was like bracing. I was like, here, as soon as it was like seen me winding down away from New 52, I'm like, cue the rebirth. And then it didn't happen. I was like, wait, what?
Right. So, and that's another thing that we'll get to later, but it's very key things within this documentary that's just like, oh wow. So with this, with the origin of Superman, Lois was not um talked about at all. And the fact of his his reasoning of Clark Kent, and of being like he can't get a girl, it was like general girls. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't this specific woman that Lois fans want to say. No, it wasn't. It was all girls that he just um wasn't getting attention from. And maybe, yeah, sure, the model, which they didn't, she wasn't at all mentioned, but the model was who he married later on. But
Mm-hmm.
she was also from an actual reporter or an actress. That's where her characterization comes from. But
Mm-hmm.
again, how you say, when you say that Lois is just other characters, yeah, that's her whole thing.
Literally, that's what's the annoying part of her character, and we'll get into this later, is that to make her relevant, they just literally turn her into other characters. But back to the documentary. The thing about this, the thing about like the origin of Superman that I always identify is that, and actually in the older DC documentary, they touch on this, that a lot of the characters of longevity come from a sort of condition of oppression, in that it's like all these guys are like creating characters that are stronger than them, that are like rich, that like are leagues above them. It's kind of like
Power fantasies.
yeah, it's their aspirations, in other words. And the whole idea about how you create this character because you don't really fit in places, 100%. I was homeschooled my entire life, so I 100% like identify with that.
Yeah, and also, again, that brings back the um champion of the oppressed.
Yes.
Yes, at that time, these are two Jewish boys who felt isolated, who felt alone, who felt like outsiders. And they created a character who felt like an outsider too, but it wasn't made up as like negative. It was very much turned into a positive thing. And the fact that DC has let writers over the years or decades turn Superman's outsider aspect into something negative, you just really ripped his his purpose in half, or ripped it to shreds. You know,
Yeah. It's astounding. But
So,
yeah, go ahead.
You can go.
Okay, but anyway, so yeah, so we get so Siegel was basically the original inspiration behind like the Clark Kent identity, and then you get Schuster, who was inspired by bodybuilders and the circus strongmen, and this is where a lot of people come at me and say you can't get rid of the shorts because of this, but I'm like, do we have strongmen anymore that wear shorts commonly?
No, they actually do wear the more long tights, like full bodysuit, you know,
And they don't wear it on the
leggings.
outside of their pants.
Yeah, they don't.
That's the key thing. And again, I bring this up all the time, where I was bored and I was watching this movie called We Could Be Heroes on Netflix. It's a very kiddie superhero movie, but I was bored. Watched it. They said, oh, we can't be superheroes. Then we have to wear our underwear on the outside of our pants. Immediately, I was like, oh my gosh, I know exactly what they're making a joke of. And it's Superman because of that.
And it has become a joke. And the thing is, at first, that was a cool thing because, yeah, the strong men in the circus or whatever, that's what they wore. But even they have changed over the decades. So it's like, why can't Superman, you know? And the thing is that it doesn't translate well with the media
No,
of
it doesn't.
today.
I've heard it depends on the artist, and to a degree that is true. But the thing is, it still looks stupid to have something that obviously looks like underwear on the outside of your pants.
Yeah, or like sometimes they even wear it where they have it where it looks like a Speedo or something,
It's
or
a super Speedo.
or it looks like just like boxers or something or shorts, and it is really weird sometimes how it's drawn. It's very weird. So I personally I'm 50-50 with it because like you said, it depends on how it's drawn. But well, actually 60-40. I would much rather it be trunkless. That
Well, remember that dope new 52
52,
armor, or even the first two Reaper suits didn't have it.
right. And even though I don't care for the show, but Cavill's suit for DCEU was perfect. And
It was. Well, and the thing about it with Superman and Lois, what they did was
yeah,
they made the underwear suit like the past suit, and then obviously he got a better suit later on. And that's the way I think they should do in the movies. They could still pay tribute to the Trunks if they do like a flashback to him being early Superman. But then later on, it's like he discovers the Kryptonian ship and he finds his actual suit that doesn't have the underwear.
yeah.
There's a way to do that. Mm-hmm.
Or like how New 52, I mean, New 52 really brought back Superman to his roots.
Mm-hmm.
And even down to, no, he didn't have the underwear, but he was very much the everyday man that he's supposed to be. That was the purpose of the character, that he's this, this seemed like a regular Joe guy that doesn't get the attention from girls, that, but he was helpful to any and everybody. That
I mean,
he was a special person.
That's why when he started off in like Grant Morrison comics run, he had the jeans and t-shirt, which I thought was great.
Yes, and that's what exactly that is for modern times, for just this guy. And especially if you do want to emphasize on, yes, he's an alien, but he's a scientist's son and a farmer's son, and you put that together, and that is why I love the jeans and tee, because it sort of put both of those ideas together in like the perfect balances type way.
Exactly. So moving on. So yeah, we get Action Comics and the iconic shot of the green car. And fun fact, this is actually homaged in Man of Steel, because there's that scene that everyone took out of context when Clark goes, what was I supposed to do? Just let them die? He's sitting on the green truck.
Yeah, they have a lot of homages of like the context of that with Superman throughout the movies. Sometimes it can go too on the nose of very corny to something that's very subtle and but it makes sense to the scene. Like with the Singer movies or Singer movie, I it was trying to be too much of Donner, but also have like these certain Easter eggs that are so out there and trying to reel in the comic book, people to say, "Oh, look at that! I know that reference," and it seemed so inauthentic.
Yeah,
Even with
100%.
even with Superman and Lois, the my mom made my suit and doing the whole thing.
Okay.
That scene.
That's a reference to actually Superman for All Seasons.
Oh, well, yeah. But, well, I'm just saying, in those general scenes or, references, it's like sometimes I don't really care for those. Sometimes, you can have it, but have it be authentic. Have it be something that feels natural, not just something that Twitter can take and have it, go viral for a couple of days or a couple of hours, and then everything else is dropped and forgotten.
Yeah, what I like to say is that if it's in like a bad movie off and the audience and the makers clearly know it's a bad movie, I call that putting on nerd armor because they're hoping that if they put like a crap ton of Easter eggs, nerds will like the purist fans will go like, "Oh my gosh, look, they referenced this. This is the best movie ever."
Exactly. And I feel like that is what the Superman and Lois and My Adventures was.
My Adventures was definitely that.
Is
Yes.
and the thing is on Twitter, they actually did have a tweet that said, now that time has passed, what did you really think of this show? And so many people were criticizing it and how bad or average it actually is, but because they have a certain ship, it's kind of like, oh, it gets a pass because
It
they
gets the
feel like,
Clois pass.
yeah,
And
and
I just love, I will never forget that time when the third episode came out and Lois was being a total B and everyone on the internet was talking about how intolerable Lois is. And I'm like, I'm with my people. Yes,
it's
yes.
it's
Let the hatred flow through you.
but it's like that is how she already is
That's
in the
how she
first
is in the
place.
comics. I actually tweeted, I got news for you. That's the most a comic accurate portrayal of Lois ever.
And also, even within the first episode, I believe that she lied and like basically had no consideration, care of anyone's safety. She just wanted a story. So it's kind of like you are making this seem like it's a good thing. You're romanticizing lying, gaslighting, and this for this certain ship. And I really don't understand the significance. I understand that she's the first love interest, quote unquote, but
Just
at the
because it's the
same time,
first doesn't mean she's the
she's the
only one.
only and the best. But I have yet to, like, if anyone tweets it or if anyone has written about it or whatever, I have yet to see any example of why this is such a good relationship. Because from the documentary, first, she wasn't even mentioned, she wasn't any type of inspiration.
That's hilarious too. And now that you think about the origin, they never mentioned Lois.
Yeah, it's kind of like if
Whoa.
she is referenced in a sense now, what I took was she just referenced like all the girls that he tried to, like, she's just that. It's just she represents the girls that didn't give him any attention. But that's still kind of like
That's hilarious. I never noticed at the start. No wonder I love this thing so much.
Yeah, but it doesn't actually give her an origin of she was this,
Mm-hmm.
this woman of that represents working class woman or something like that. No, she
Yeah.
represents basically the women who ignored um Seagal. So it's kind of like that.
Yeah, that's honestly hilarious. Yeah, by implication, they are basically saying that. So then we get the radio show. Now, fun fact, kryptonite and the ability of Superman to fly come from the radio show.
That's interesting. So basically, yeah, everything that it starts to build the character, which I mean, I like the flying because
Mm-hmm.
it's the leaping tall buildings and everything. Yeah, that's something any kid that's sort of like in a sense of a Batman fan will like in a ninja or something. That's what I think of with the leaping. But flying, yes, flying is very um it has always been my favorite
Me
superpower
too.
for
Fun
Superman.
fact the leaping tall buildings in a single bound is referenced in Man of Steel because during the first flight sequence before he really takes off, he's jumping like long distances.
Yeah.
This is why when people accuse Zach of not reading the comic books, I'm like, if he somehow did not read the comics, he's getting very lucky with the obscure comic references.
And the thing is, what I've what I've noticed is that they they don't read the comics, they see panels. And
Mm-hmm.
now, and even present day now, with the AI, I saw someone actually tweet
Oh,
an AI image, and they were comparing it to the new cast David.
I
And
saw that. Yeah, they use an AI image for it, and I'm
and it
like,
was like he's the
uh,
perfect Superman, and it's kind of like, well, actually, that's not a comic panel, but
who wants to tell him? Can I tell him, please? Can I tell him? That'd be hilarious. You're using a fake image, dude. Speaking of fake images, how about that sweater weather cover that clearly looks AI?
Oh my God, no, all of the majority of the covers that from any book seemed AI. And I have honestly, I use it too. So I have no problem with it like that. It's just the fact of like it, it's a double standard. First,
Mhm.
it's like some artists, they've been accused of copycat, they've been
Mhm.
accused of tracing, they use references. So I don't really understand what's the problem with AI unless it is to profit. That's the
Well, the
only problem.
idea, the idea I've heard is that with AI art, because the way it works is it aggregates art and art style from other artists' work on the internet and puts it together. So it's really taking from other people's artwork.
Yeah, but but I still don't, I understand that, but I don't agree when you do have still other artists who trace,
Hmm.
who has traced before, who has used references, who try
Hmm.
to imitate other artists style.
Hmm.
Like a lot of the artists that DC have, they're trying to imitate like Alex Ross. They're trying to imitate um uh oh, George Perez. And but then you have original type artists like Dan Mora or even Jorge. They have, I'll say Dan has a more distinctive style. Jorge tries to go with the anime style,
Okay, it
And
works.
yeah, it definitely works. But at the same time, I still don't understand the double standard because
Mm,
AI, yeah, sure, it takes from different aspects of other art, but you do this, some artists do the same thing and they do profit. So it's both, honestly, both are profiting. And yeah, their covers are just like
mhm.
kind of atrocious.
I
You
saw
can
those
tell.
and I was like, and I'm like, first off, it's because here's the thing, and Britt and I have talked about this many times in our own private conversations, that it seems like with Chloe, the majority of the reason why people ship it is because they think it's sexy, and that is the pure reason why. Not because it's like, not based on any story reasons, but just for erotic reasons. And I'm like, well, that's just sad.
And honestly, I don't even know why they think it's sexy or erotic because it's not. Like to me, it's
They
very
can't.
vanilla.
They can't. They actually biologically can't make kids. But anyway, this is getting a little off topic. Back to the, so the point is the radio show like really expands Superman. So then we get Superman like explodes DC. Like it's the reason why DC like gets on the map, and it's kind of funny. I would love to see like uh, a movie made of the people, maybe, because what happened is that Siegel and Schuster took it to like all these different other publishers and they turned it down. I would love to see their reaction to Superman like exploding and making this small company like huge.
Well, yeah, that's the thing is, at that time, that seemed like a very good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, well, honestly, we can't really even say, even for today, that it would be a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because for that time, yeah, Superman became, he is the first superhero, but uh, with powers. I wouldn't say he's the first hero because it seems like there were different, like, uh, Dick Tracy, things like that, that was already around,
Mm-hmm.
but it, it just wasn't someone on this grand scale.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Exactly.
so I, I still, this documentary really put a different perspective of how when people say that Superman is the first superhero, he's the first super
He is the
with
first
powers.
superhero. He's not the first comic book hero, but he is the first comic book superhero.
Right. So sometimes now it's kind of like be specific because you want to put this character on a pedestal and he's not on the pedestal anymore. And this, like I said, this documentary really put a different perspective as to why Superman now struggles with the audience.
Yeah, exactly. So what we have here are some quotes from some DC creators, and what's cool about it is that according to John Riley, granted I didn't like a lot of his writing on DC, but John Riley did say it's Superman is essentially the immigrant story, and when we've talked about this too, he's the refugee slash immigrant story.
Yeah, he is, well, a refugee.
Well, yeah,
Um, he's, and again, that is something that is so taken away from Superman because he is from another planet, but like how Post Crisis did, he was born from the Matrix thing
mm-hmm.
and Matrix thing, and he had to be born on American soil, US soil, in order to become an American. It's not that a pure American. It's not that he couldn't come from like he did um, at 2 years old and was adopted. And you take away, not only do you take away the immigrant and refugee story, but you also take away the adoption story. Yes, the Kents are still his adoptive parents, but the way that they um, write it now is kind of like you can forget that he's from another planet sometimes the way that they write it, or
True.
it's so disrespectful to the L's because they are not referenced as they should be, as equals. to the Kents.
Mm-hmm. True. So then we move on next. Next we get the origin of a certain princess. So Moulton Marston was he was a critic of the comic book industry at first, and that's the funny part. Their response: hire this man. We must. So what had happened was he said, well, okay, DC needs some blood, a fix to its blood curdling masculinity. So then they were like, okay, how about Wonder Woman? And it's actually kind of cool if you watch the movie. Dr. Marston and his Wonder Woman. It's basically about the entire origin of the idea. The original name was Suprema the Wonder Woman, but when he pitched it to DC, they pitched it as, how about just Wonder Woman?
Because it was too close. Even though Marston, his idea for Wonder Woman was to be an equal to Superman, it was still that it was too close. Like, we want... well, first, let's talk about the president after
Yeah, go ahead.
That guy. He started the shady business deals. The
oh yeah, you mean Donfeld?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Harry Donfeld. He basically made the deal to have the rights to Superman, but then like shaded, Schuster and Seagal.
It took like years for them to even get acknowledgement in the books.
Yes, and even now, even though they have their names in it, it's still the fact that they had to fight, and I think it is still a fight to have some type of just rights to this character, because he did think that this is gonna make me billions, and he's basically like an old school Zaslav. Like,
actually, you know what? That's a good point. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's true.
So DC has been dealing with, I would say, Zaslavs for
so long.
So
they've been dealing with Warner Brothers like people for so long.
Yes. So going back to Marston, so yeah, Wonder Woman she was supposed to be this beautiful, feminine woman, but physically, physically, appearance wise, but she had strength. She, represent, and the thing is too, that people think that she's just about BDSM, bondage, and
in their defense, the original Wonder Woman comic kind of make you think that. So
exactly, and that's what the in the documentary it was stated that it does make you think that, and the imagery definitely make you think that, but it was actually a representation of the women's suffrage, and that image of a woman with the chains and stuff like that, which goes back even... It's funny that Wonder Woman and Superman has the same imagery of chains, like breaking chains.
Yeah,
that is
true.
So, I mean, these two characters are so aligned in so many things. Superman was supposed to be the people, was the champion of the people, champion of the oppressed, and then Wonder Woman was the champion of women and children, and
in a way, the oppressed.
Yes. So she is supposed to be the first lady of DC. She
Not
is
Lois. She is.
Right. And I can't stand it when Lois fans say she's the first lady of DC. No, she's not.
According to who? Because according to the company, it's Wonder Woman.
And I mean, Wonder Woman was the one that was mentioned in this documentary as who she was and what she represented. And a lot of Lois fans want to say that she represents the working class. She represents women's suffrage. No, she obviously doesn't, because she wasn't mentioned. It was Wonder Woman. she was the first superhero, for female representation, and she was, the thing about DC is very much a male dominated industry too,
Mm-hmm.
and we get to that later. But I think that is why Wonder Woman still struggles to this day,
Mm-hmm.
because again, her character is supposed to be about equality, about fighting against women's suffrage. Yet, when you have that still in reality, that is going to show within the comics.
Yeah. And again, it's like the hypocriticalness of promoting a character as like the symbol of feminism, and we'll talk about that later. And then just not do anything cool with her. But anyway, so again, so we have H.G. Peters to reward for to like thank for like a lot of her iconic look, and they were she's connected to Greek to essentially Greek myth, and that's part of why I like Wonder Woman, because as like a massive nerd of Greek myth, it was like, oh, okay, cool, here's a character that's her thing.
Yeah, when and also the again, you would go back to the present day, how so many of the fans are having trouble understanding that her origins are from Greek myth. From that, it's like they have a problem with the gods being mentioned or shown within her story. So with New 52, with the New 52 run, because
It
it
was
was
heavily in with the
heavily,
gods.
it's like, okay, go back and go read, or go back and like research that yes, they are supposed to be in her book like this, because that is what she's rooted in. So yeah, this, like I said, keep saying, this documentary really put a different perspective on things, really showed that what we've been saying.
It's a very honest, and you know what's kind of funny? It was very honest about all the controversies. I mean, we don't mention it here, but about like Bob Kane and the whole Batman thing. It's like it was extremely honest about all the other stuff that DC went through.
Yes, it really, like I said, this, the perspective and the view that we get out of this, to know and basically give us like a confirmation that, like I said, we always say this is our opinion. You can agree to disagree, but we come with facts. And this documentary,
Exactly. And that's the thing. That's where I started to think, okay, I'm right about, because there was that period when I first started doing this where I'm like, am I right about the whole Superman and Wonder Woman instead of Superman and Lois thing? And then when I actually looked into it and the facts, and then the other arguments were like based on feelings or just like isolated panels, and it wasn't based on like the origins of these characters, I was like, no, I'm right. I'm right.
yeah, but again, even within the origins of the characters, they align. And even Marston, he had in, I think it was 1944. No, it was 1942, a year after Wonder Woman debuted. And there is a short article about her, and the title is Superman's Wife or something like that.
Yeah, or I think it was Superman's girlfriend or something like that. It was one of those things. That's the series that everyone always promotes. Like, she had a top selling series in the '60s. And we're not in the '60s, and it's called Superman's girlfriend.
Oh, you're talking about Lois. No,
Oh,
Wonder
okay.
Woman. I'm
Oh,
saying
okay. Oh, okay.
there was
Really?
there was a promotional article about it. I have to find it. Um, I think someone, of course, our good Super Wonder fans probably have it somewhere that I can easily get
Probably
to it.
Jordan. Jordan will probably be
Yeah,
able to find it. Jeez,
yeah,
that dude can always find obscure stuff to us up.
exactly. So I'll get to that. But the article is basically saying, like, you know, what Wonder Woman, her purpose and stuff, and how she is equal to Superman. And within that time, of course, the shared universe didn't exist. So already, though, because you have these two powerful characters that seem to be alike, people already wondered, how would it be if they would interact? How would it be if they were interact romantically? So yeah, even within their origin, um, or Wonder Woman's first year of being of debuting, she was already tied to Superman, especially the fact that she was to be the equal counterpart. And even Marston said that Superman and Wonder Woman represents children to be able to feel like they are protected, that they can do basically the impossible, and just give you um that positive feeling. And then there was, I believe, 2 years afterwards, in 1944, there was a man who dressed up as Superman, and for Diana to dance with. And Marston wrote Superman and Wonder Woman dancing. How appropriate. So yeah, the little tidbits there, they've had an alignment for a very, very long time.
So in other words, our ship is an old and noble tradition.
Yes.
So, and then she also started to essentially represent the wave of women in the workforce, because this was around the time you had like World War II, because all the men would go off to combat, and the women would hold off the fort, work in the factories to build stuff. So, and that's where we really get into the war years, and this is where like the patriotism really gets like it gets ramping up with like the Justice Society of America.
Yeah.
The first team up.
So, right back to the workforce. So yeah, that whole thing was Wonder Woman, not Lois. So make it clear.
We have all the cool stuff. Suck it.
Yeah. So, and it really shows that trying to take away Wonder Woman's purpose to give to Lois, like you said, the whole champion of truth, that she's looking for truth, but yet how is she looking for truth? But she's lying and being unethical as a journalist. A woman in the reporter workplace. I mean, sure, but nowadays, I mean, being a reporter, honestly, even at that time,
everyone's a reporter nowadays because we have those cell phones. So
exactly,
I'm like, oh, at least in the new 52, they're like, make Clark an internet blogger, because those are popular right now.
But even okay, I found the article, and yes, Jordan had it.
Of course, there you go. That explains it.
So it says, I will send it to you, but it is basically, it's titled "A Wife for Superman."
Aha.
So let me send it to you.
Hang on, I'll see. Are you saying on Twitter?
Yes, Twitter.
It will be arriving momentarily. But in the meantime, continue. And I got it.
Oh.
Oh, wow. Fast. Yes, I'll try and share that. All right, hang on. So all right. I've been having some issues with screen sharing on Twitter. Thanks a lot, Elon. But so I will I gotta be honest. So let me try this.
Twitter X, whatever you want to call it, has been very
I'm not calling it X. X makes me think it's a dirty website.
Honestly, yeah.
I'm like, oh, what?
Even the icon on the phone,
it looks like that. One of my co-hosts, Nick, was like, I feel very uncomfortable if I upload a video to X.
Yeah, or saying, have you like messaged me on X or something? Or
I'm like, Comment
Yeah.
onto this video on X.
Yeah, I having it on my screen on the phone is just so weird. It's like you just have a black screen, a black background and an X on it. It definitely looks like a site you should not be on.
It
And it's
looks
just
like
so,
one of those hacker sites.
yeah, or one of those like call those late night call
Oh boy.
things.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, but the article or the little excerpt, it says, a wife for Superman, and it what introduces Marston and gives a little background from him, and then it also says about Superman and what her similarities to him and what she represents and how she's um what we just talked about with the women's suffrage with children and stuff like that. So yeah, this little excerpt is basically saying if they were in the same universe, which of course they
At the
didn't
time, they
know.
weren't. That's a key thing here. It was later that decided, let's just put all these guys in a shared universe.
And the fact that these two characters are now in the shared universe together, and this article is saying how she is basically perfect, or they're perfect to be together, says a lot about the ship. That
And
this.
let me translate that for the inevitable Chloe person that's going to try and put in the comments. In normal speak, what that actually says is SuperWonder didn't start with the New 52.
Yeah, it didn't. When obviously you haven't read DC as a whole, or you're just completely ignoring like a lot. Even if you want to quote Frank Miller, Superman and Wonder Woman even goes back further than that. If you want to quote Kingdom Come, it goes back further than
Even
that.
for so I was on a friend's show, by the way. So my buddy Max, he goes, "Hey Jared, I was reading Kingdom Come, and that Superman and Wonder Woman stuff is great." And I'm like, I know, right?
Yeah, because their relationship is founded on actual like understanding of the gray areas within the world, within anything, especially an outsider aspect. And
Mm-hmm.
that is what connects them with Lois. And you have to basically ignore that part of him, of Superman, to make him basically kind of uh hate himself, like self-hate of that he's different. But with Wonder Woman, she represents acceptance and love, and like what Phil Jimenez said, that she originally, the Amazons and Wonder Woman were children of Aphrodite and Athena, and so that represents
Love and
love
wisdom,
and wisdom.
and
And
kind of war, but yes, mostly wisdom.
yeah, yeah. So Diana being the goddess of war,
That was
you
cool. Except when
Athena,
Tomasi wrote it.
right? Athena is, like a goddess of war, so it makes sense. And the fact that Diana, with what Soul wrote it for her to want to basically end war. It wasn't her to engage in it. It was for her to basically be the goddess of peace and war at the same time, which was a very cool concept that he had going on. Yeah, so again, New 52 basically took all of the older concepts, their or the purpose of within their conception, and modernized it.
Yeah, it was essentially a modernization of the golden age. And you know
Yes.
what? That's why it was so popular. So speaking of people that are like this isn't DC. It's more DC than post crisis.
Yes.
So
Very
there you
much so.
go. And
Um,
so what's cool about this, by the way, in the 40s, how comics taught sailors how to do their jobs, that was Stan Lee's job in the military.
he was a sailor.
No, he was. I believe he was involved in the creation of those little training documents.
Oh, cool.
So you could
Well,
say comics has always been in his blood.
yeah. And like you said, it was propaganda, it was patriotism, and here is and racism. And here's
To a
another thing.
degree, yeah. If you see a lot of like the covers of like Wonder Woman using the heads of Japan, Germany, and Russia as bowling pins, and the way the Japanese were depicted, yeah.
Yeah, that was terrible. Or when Lois got into a time machine or something,
Oh, so,
and
is that
turned
the
into
one where she wanted, where she wanted to see Will Clark still love me as a black woman? And I'm like,
yeah,
what?
I was
Who
like,
thought that was a good
wow,
idea?
yeah, that's terrible. I mean,
I also
just
love
awful.
the part of Metropolis that she wanted to go to like see what it was like to live as a black person. It's called Little Harlem.
Oh, Jesus.
I'm like,
I think
what the hell?
I think it was in the
What?
70s. I
Yeah,
think that
like that
was the
explains it. But the thing is, when you actually look at it nowadays through a modern lens, you're like, yeah, that's not a good. I can see why that didn't last.
and the thing is, this is the thing that the documentary talked about, and we'll go into that, is how DC is with trying to basically keep up with the times, or they didn't try. They didn't even try. They basically, in a sense, with it's kind of like they tried to make fun of the changes or something, or or it was tone deaf. It was very tone deaf with how they were trying to transition with the times, and they struggle with it even now. And
Oh,
it's
so essentially they rebirthed it, huh? Huh?
funny. Yeah, it was. Yeah,
I said the jokes just write themselves with this company, so it's
yeah,
just like so. Then we get all right. So what happened with this is, excuse me, we had this guy, Dr. Frederick Wortham, and he would. So basically, there was a lot of juvenile delinquency going on at this time period, and Dr. Wortham thought, okay, let's blame all of comics because kids that read comics became juvenile delinquents. Okay, but by your logic, okay, so kids who drink milk become juvenile delinquents. Then you see how this eventually goes. It's astounding. And
yeah,
then so to fix this, they had to essentially self-censor, and you had the comics code.
yeah. It's basically like they wanted their kids to, well, and kids do, they imitate things.
Mhm.
But even now, I mean, my little sister, she is um going to turn 4 in uh 20 on the 21st.
Hmm.
And she's in that stage where anything she hears, she either thinks it's funny or she is going to repeat it. So you have to be very careful with what you say.
Oh,
It's especially words that, or your tone,
she starts
or
walking around going, Clois, Clois, Clois. And I'm like, Britt, what are you doing? You traitor.
no, I let her know you
Yes.
are a Wonder Woman fan. Like,
We don't say Lois Lane in this household.
yes, exactly. So, and so, yeah, so at that age, that is what she does. And she also, with listening to music, she loves her nursery rhymes and stuff like that, but
Mhm.
she will also remember or memorize a regular song, like, of course, as a fan I am, listening to Beyonce or something like that,
Oh, okay.
she will sing a song like that, or Whitney Houston or something like that. So yeah, that is what kids do. They imitate. But it just all depends on, as a parent.
Yeah, it's up to the parents. That's what really annoys me when you have these things like, oh my gosh, my kid's gonna play Call of Duty. He could become a school shooter. Raise your kid properly.
Exactly.
I grew up on first-person shooters, and I'm fine.
Yeah. Mortal Kombat.
Oh God.
You know, you're not gonna go around seeing kids talking about finish him and
all of a sudden you're walking by a high school, like a school playground, and all of a sudden you hear finish him.
Yeah, nothing like that.
Fatality.
Right. I mean, yeah, some kids do say the words, whatever, but they're not gonna actually act it out.
They're not. No one's gonna rip each other's head off.
Right. With it all depends on, yeah, the parenting. You talk to your kids. You let the kid know that this is fiction, this is not reality, and don't let the lines blur. And the thing is about adults now, especially with social media, is that they let the lines blur and they try to live vicariously through these characters. And that's basically what Lois fans do.
And by the way, so essentially the parents have to sit with their kids and say,
okay, they're talking about fictional characters. Fictional characters.
I had to.
Exactly. It was perfect. With these characters are power fantasies. And that's all it is. It's a fantasy. But
yeah, exactly.
Just because you can't live it, you have to make your life like reality. You have to live real life.
Now, you can take inspiration from these characters, because the part of Batman that I always take inspiration from is that the good thing about Batman is that he represents, if you've gone through very traumatic like experiences in life, you can rise above this and turn it into a strength. That's like fantastic. Obviously, right. Don't dress up like a bat and beat up people. But you can. I saw this fantastic meme. There was like a kid holding a handgun and he's crying, and it says, "When you say you want to be Batman when you grow up, but you know what must be done."
Oh my God! Yeah, don't do that. Don't.
Yeah, but it's like even with Superman, it's like the thing about Superman is that. And what you could take inspiration from, and granted, yes, you can't actually like fly, but it's like always like hope, and he promotes like hope, positivity. Wonder Woman is truthfulness and like accepting all that you are what makes you unique. That's why I always say that that's one of the things that made me pro Wonder Woman, not Lois, because here's the thing with Wonder Woman, he's encouraged to embrace both sides. And then I had to say, then what, basically saying that she encouraged him to only be Kryptonian because of how many times she just calls him Cal. And I'm like, that's a pet name. And B, calling him by that name is not really like, it's not.
It's his name, though.
It's his name. Yeah. And that's the thing about the Lois relationship. It encourages him, and don't tell me it doesn't, because she has encouraged him to abandon the Kryptonian part of his life. And I'm like, well, first off, that's very problematic for a refugee / immigrant character.
Yeah, even in Our Worlds at War, she says she misses Clark. It's not that she misses, which
even Kingdom Come. She wakes up and calls him Cal, and he's Clark. She goes, "Hello, Clark," and then he corrects her.
Yeah, Clark is. It was the disguise. Mm-hmm. He doesn't actually need glasses. He isn't a bumbling idiot galoot or whatever. He isn't that.
Oh my gosh.
The exaggeration of his attitude. He's nice. He's humbled. He's very laid back. But he isn't that exaggeration that of the nerd. So with Diana calling him Cal, she is, first of all, she's the goddess of truth. she holds the lasso of truth. Obviously, with her calling him that, that is the truth. But at the same time, she can go either way. We'll call him Clark, we'll call him Cal.
Yeah, I mean, what difference does it make how many times she calls him either name? She's still talking to the dude. That's the thing there. Not once has Diana told him to ignore his human heritage or Kryptonian heritage or vice versa. Granted, as far as I know, Lois hasn't explicitly said ignore your Kryptonian heritage. I'm just saying it's a byproduct of that relationship. With this, essentially, she's like, just be whoever you really are. That's it.
Honestly, Diana, she says it. She says, you're Superman, you're Clark Kent, and you're Kal-El. The only thing is that, yeah, she likes calling him Cal because it did turn into a pet name. And honestly, calling him Clark, it does ignore that he is an alien. And I think that is what that is supposed to mean, is that you want him to be human in a sense of just a regular person, and he's not. So that is what that is. That is actually oppressing him. That is actually, taking away his uniqueness. Yes, Clark, when the thing is with Diana, she is much more balanced. She goes either way with whatever she calls him, but both sides she does not ignore. She embraces both. And that's why she falls for him, because it was a quote. I don't know where it's from, but I can remember it. It was on Tumblr. But she basically it basically said that Clark is he has the presence of royalty, but a heart of a peasant. And what that meant is he's very strong. He has this leadership, but at the same time, he's very humbled and down to earth, though, and now that I think about it, I really do need to find that quote because it's very good.
Send it to me and we'll tweet it out. But so DC had this issue before, but then you have Marvel that is creating modern because around this time Marvel existed before. To be clear, it's just what people consider the Marvel age of comics. That's when they created the Fantastic Four, Iron Man, Spider-Man. They started to create more down to earth and essentially the world outside your window, where DC was still not that way, and that led eventually to Marvel overtaking DC. And it's kind of funny, they say in the documentary, DC vastly underestimated Marvel. Vastly.
Yeah. Honestly, that part, when it started talking about Marvel, I was like, oh, this turned into a Marvel documentary.
It kind of, because here's the thing, no documentary about any history of comics you can't ignore Marvel.
Yeah. I mean, that section, it really dragged DC for filth.
Yeah, it did. It basically chained them to the back of a car and said, gun it.
Yeah, it at that point, if in your own documentary you have to give Marvel another company props and you basically self-drag, that is the most embarrassing thing as a company.
That ain't good. That ain't good.
And it's the
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And it's the fact that I guess the editor-in-chief of Den of Geek, it seemed like within the documentary he took joy into saying basically DC is outdated. DC is
well, because they are. That's the thing.
And it was saying DC is so out of touch with within the 60s of Marvel, reflecting with the times. They basically naturally moved forward, knew what to do, knew how to engage with the audience, while DC was out of touch with being tone deaf, with, like we said, with the Lois turned into a black woman, with, you know,
I still
just
can't
this,
believe that happened.
right, with this kind of, especially with the civil rights movement and the Vietnam War and everything like that. And yeah, DC just, instead of, and they also says this too, instead of fighting how the American way, the ideals of it, how they've twisted the ideas.
Yeah, because
The character,
here's the thing about the American way thing. I get what people said about it, why it should have been changed. But the thing about it is that, does America always live up to its ideas that it espouses? No, 100. And this is coming from a guy that considers himself very patriotic. Absolutely not. But what that's supposed to represent is like because the American way is the shorthand for a better tomorrow. They just say American way because, like it or not, Superman is a part of American
pop culture
mythology. He's essentially as close to like he's on the level of Paul Bunyan, essentially. So that's why you have to keep that's why the way I see it, at least, you have to keep that American way idea, and it looks like they are doing that because of like in the Super Sons movie when they go truth, justice, the American way, because that's what you'd lose when you do that, because you're ignoring a significant part of the heritage of that character.
Right. What the American way was supposed to is the land of the free, and that everyone, like what was said in Throne of Atlantis, the animated movie, is that we're not hiding, we're blending in. So we're blending in with, everyone is unique with age, sex, gender, ethnicity. We're just blending in to make like this vast culture,
a melting
whatever.
pot, essentially. And that's the other thing about Superman and Wonder Woman. It's about like it's about embracing what makes you unique and different instead of running away from it.
Exactly. And you're not hiding from it, and you're basically letting the world know that you are very much, you love yourself.
Yeah.
And you know that you are celebrating who you are in your culture, and you're not ashamed of your culture.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that is what DC has a problem with even now. And yeah, so through the 60s, DC has, it's been basically rinse and repeat with this whole being tone deaf. Even now, I think it was Superboy, if I'm or one of the comics, that they're trying to use like street terminology.
Oh God. And it
Twitter,
turned into a hello fellow kids thing.
yeah, definitely.
Oh my gosh.
mean, very cringe out. Yeah.
DC being cringe, gas. Say it ain't so, Britt.
Right.
Wow.
But it's very much the meme. Even DC's social media, their handles, when they try to post like the memes or something like that. Even it was a post like cuffing season, or they try to, on the captions, try to use the words or something like that.
Remember
And
when they
like,
did that
whole no.
Remember when they did that whole thing on the Bat Family and they identified Tim Drake as like the gay tech nerd? And I'm like, thank you for confirming what we all suspected, but okay. The other thing I want to mention about this is also when they were purchased by Warner Media. And I only have one thing to say to that.
Yeah, second Warner Brothers.
Oh my gosh, would that be a decision that all of us would later very regret?
It is awful. I mean, trying to engage with the young audience. I mean, Marvel has their issues. Is not that they are flawless, but at the same time, but at the same time, regardless, Marvel still is the number one comic franchise.
That okay, so partly it's because of the movies, but majorly it's, at least I think so. This is my own little theory, that because DC, Marvel publishes quantity-wise so much, it's not that the books are better, it's just they flood the market with so many books.
Yeah, that too. Because there was a tweet this morning that had it was asking basically, why is Batman more popular than Superman? Or, you know,
Because DC publishes only Batman books practically.
that's true. Well, Superman basically lost his popularity within the 60s of being tone deaf, and just how basically stripping his uniqueness away throughout that time. And even the uniform, the underpants was very much becoming outdated. So
and then they killed him, and he never recovered from that, really.
right, that too. But it showed that the top selling media franchises, and of course this day we have anime, we have these different like, well, anime really is just the
I was surprised, by the way, when you sent me that list, of how low on the totem pole Batman is.
yeah, because that's what it is, because it's anime that has pretty much skyrocketed within this time. But Batman is still the number one DC character, and for overall DC is the number one. Then you have for 2023, DC is, I think, ranked 17 for overall media.
Oh God.
Yeah, to be 17, and Marvel is like number 2.
When you have literally the most iconic characters of all fiction, yeah, that's an issue.
So
but it's
uh-huh.
it's that's what pisses me off, Britt. That it's not like it's not like they have a bunch of characters no one's heard about. No. There was a study that said the symbols for Batman and Superman is more recognizable than the Christian cross that has existed for millions of years. Yeah, that's an issue.
Yeah, I mean, Marvel is even, their unknown characters are more household names than, or more gravitated to than, well, Superman. Because with that article, or the link that I showed you, Superman is only worth like 6 billion, while that is very, very low
for Superman.
Yes, while Batman, I think, was like 36 billion or 20 something billion. But for Batman to be all the way up there, that is, and Superman to be way down there, there's very much a disconnect. And the Superman's highest, like, they showed the section of what grosses the most, and it's merchandise. So basically, Superman is staying afloat a little bit with the t-shirts, with the, if the symbol is on, I don't know, underpants or something like that.
Merchandising, where the real money is made.
Yeah, which is funny because Superman and Wonder Woman
I know
merchandise together.
There is an Xbox Series X skin officially licensed that I am going to order and put on my Xbox.
Yeah, and the brand is called Lovebirds.
Yeah, as far as I know, there ain't no Lois and Superman skins for other items. So I'm like, because that's the other thing. Ignoring the massive comic book sales of Superman and Wonder Woman, the merch sales, obviously it sells a lot because they wouldn't keep licensing it.
Yeah, and the only 3 couples that is licensed and promoted is Batcat, Superman and Wonder Woman, and Harley and Joker. Which Harley and Joker, now that
Because
people
it's
are
because they had a movie though.
but Harley and Joker have been the couple since Harley's, creation.
Hmm.
They have been the top three couples as far as merch goes. You don't see Black Canary and Green Arrow. You don't see Mr. Miracle and Big Barda. Even with having a movie, you don't see any Aquaman and Mirror merch.
Well,
The
it's
only
probably because the actress who plays Mara, but go on.
well, yeah, but for a comic, like they can still
Yeah.
use the comic image
Mhm.
of her. And even with the Lois merch, she did have a little bit, but again, who's gonna really buy
Basic, yeah.
that says LL or L on it? Like, are
You take a
calling me
massive
loser?
you take a massive L when you buy that.
Yeah, that's
The funny part
right.
is that in my adventures with Superman's become an inside joke on the show because Talati and I reacted to every episode because we were masochists. But what's kind of funny, there's a scene where Mexoplick, so the multiversal Lois Lanes show up, and it's called like the League of Lois Lanes. So Mexi called them the League of Loser Lanes, so we call her Loser Lane now.
Yeah, or Lois Lane. You know,
Hey, there you go.
yeah,
Lois Lane, nice.
yeah. I've been calling her that for years. So even with typing, what's funny is that because I type it,
Your
it
are you telling me your autocorrect?
yeah, it has Lane.
Jeez, that's awesome. So speaking of Lois, then we have the Daughter Superman movie, which did say DC at the time. The thing is that later it become a thorn in DC's side because everyone, like even Zack Snyder said, people have this weird, like overly
Obsession.
attachment to the Daughter Superman, which to be clear again, it's iconic. It did a lot for the comic book movie genre, but it should not be the be all end all. Even Christopher Reeve says, no, we should have all these different versions of Superman. But again, and I believe the Superman fandom is notorious for not wanting change or anything like that. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's nuts. And then we also get in the 70s the opening of comic shops, which I'll say as someone that goes to a comic book shop regularly, that's part of the experience because it's kind of funny. I walk in there. It's become like in Cheers where everyone goes Norm when Norm walks in the bar. Everyone yells my name when I enter a comic book shop now.
That's cool.
I'm like, because I drop $300 there every month, so they better honor me when I walk in there.
All right. So with the movie, the thing is, it's because it's the first. Because of course, Superman is the first superhero comic character and the first to have this superhero movie. You've had these fantastical movies before, but you haven't had a superhero, and that's what makes it the first. But at the same time, like we said, it saved DC because it was the first of it, and it was interesting. And the tagline was, "Do you believe a man can fly?" And it's kind of like, well, what? This is the general audience. You speaking to the general audience instead of comic book fans. So that helpful, but at the same time, still, it didn't truly get DC out of its rut until comic shops opened up.
And yeah, because DC also then did that strategy of like flooding the comic market with like so many. They called it the DC explosion, and funnily enough, they later had to cut back in the book, so it was later labeled the DC implosion.
Yeah, so you have this, and this is where I think Jeanette Kahn or
Yep, it was her.
This is where you really see that comics are a male dominated, very much like you as a female, you should not be interested in comics. Like, this is just our thing. This is a boys' club. And the thing is, with Superman within the 90s, or they tried to again with Lois fans, they turned him to say that he was a romance character. Even that was not mentioned. He's not a romance character. He is a action hero. And the romance or whatever comes way later is not even important. But within the 90s, this is what they turned it, and Donner films. They turned Superman into this romantic hero and gave Lois more prominence and wanted the female audience. But again, some females, they see the guy and might have a crush on the guy that's playing Superman, but they don't actually care for the character himself.
Well, Britt, here's what you have to understand. Every man even has a man crush on Henry Cavill, so I can't exactly knock anyone for that. So I will push back a little bit on that.
Right. No, we're not knocking it, or I'm not knocking it. It's just the fact of how DC tries to get the general audience to go
that's true.
interested with the comics.
That's true. I'm thinking that's probably a reason why Aquaman made $1 billion, because Momoa takes off his shirt in the movie.
Yeah. But you see that Aquaman sales did not get any better, and now he doesn't even have a book. And it's been what, 3 years since Aquaman had a book.
And by the way, funnily enough, the run that everyone identifies as the run that saved Aquaman from being a lame character is the New 52, which
yes.
I have the omnibus for that. It's freaking dope as hell. Like,
yeah,
wow, it's Jeff Johns, so can you really blame it? By the way, he follows me on Instagram, so yes. So then we get Crisis on Infinite Earths, which this is what I call Flashpoint, because it was like, yeah, the continuity is getting really like massive for people to like really get into it. So they're like, wipe it clean. There's only one Earth. And this is where you get like John Byrne's Man of Steel, the Perez Wonder Woman, even the Hal Jordan Green Lantern that would later turn into Parallax. It's all like stems from here. And fun fact, yeah, what's kind of funny. So I'm currently going through like the John Byrne Man of Steel series. I think I read through the entire mini, and every time I'm reading through this, I'm like, okay, so people again accuse Zach of not reading the comics, but or like of Zach's movies that not being comic accurate, but legit Man of Steel is the Man of Steel movie, like almost shot for shot.
Yeah, I mean that
except better.
It's very much post-crisis. He is characterized for post-crisis. He has New 52. The only New 52 inspiration really is trunkless suit and being more modernized in a more realistic sense than the way Donner had him, as I said, like a romance hero or a more kind of cornball, that type of characterization.
I will push back on that real quick, because the beginning of Man of Steel has him being like a superhero from the shadows and saving people in regular civilian clothes. That can kind of be taken as like the beginning of the Man of Steel
that's true.
New 52 action comics. So that's kind of a little more of that per se. So I just wanted to like shoot that in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so all right, if you want to read a story that's super freaking dense, Crisis is like jeez.
And the fact that they are doing the animated movie, which
at least it's in 3 parts,
but it still seems like it's going to be rewritten and it's in a very original story, like, instead of adapting.
Oh yeah.
Which the Tomorrowverse, it hasn't had the build-up. You have the War World movie, where
Oh my gosh.
Diana is older, but all she remembers is, which was the only good scene, of course, was when she just remembered Clark. But
All right.
that's it.
The problem with that movie is that the first two shorts serve no role in the story. They could have just cut those out, just done the black and white one, and then cut to the werewolf parts and expanded it more. It would have been a much better movie. Like the cowboy Wonder Woman and the caveman Batman serves zero effect on the plot.
The only thing I can say is that they wanted to show like a multiverse type thing of them, like a callback to the
I
Elseworlds
guess,
stories.
but it's still like at least have those characters show up. That's my problem. I understand like why they included 3 of those, and that would be fine. Because when I first was seeing the marketing for the movie, I assumed that since there were 3 worlds that they were showing, each one of those 3, they would take Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman from each of those worlds. No, they all come from the black and white one.
Yeah, well, first, the Superman and Batman are, apparently they are from the same Earth.
So was Wonder Woman.
Wonder Woman is from Earth 2, from the
But,
JSA movie.
but she comes from the black and white Earth in the movie.
Yeah, it's kind of like
I'm like, what?
yeah, it's very confusing because you don't know. Um, what confuses it was the fact that she says that my Clark is different. Like you're younger, my Clark is older. So it's like, uh, you know, yeah, they're in the fact that they have lost their memories or whatever. But it's like, how do they? I don't really know how to explain it because
There's a
the
lot of
movie is so
issues.
confusing.
See, that's a movie that I have a love-hate relationship with because I like certain parts of it. I like the 3 stories. The 3 stories were cool. And again, I like all the SuperWonder stuff and the action scenes were great. But the other stuff is like, wait, something doesn't add up here.
Yeah, trying to make it cohesive is the issue because it's really a movie that just doesn't make sense, doesn't really build anything. It doesn't build anything, and it's not even built off of anything. Like I said, the Tomorrowverse has such a disconnect. They don't even show the Wonder Woman of Earth 1. Like
Mm-mm.
she's mentioned in the Green Lantern movie, and it says that Superman and Wonder Woman are off on like a mission together, and
Oh,
that's
they're
it.
definitely off on a mission together, if you
How
catch my
funny,
drift.
funny.
He's not with
But
Lois in this Earth, so hey.
yeah, which it's a good thing. But DC, they still do stuff off screen.
Oh my gosh,
So,
yes. More off screen. Watch. They'll have been a couple the entire time off screen now, so they will have learned nothing from the DC AMU.
yeah, and honestly, that really doesn't make sense. I mean, you have Clark and Diana. She was with that, well, for her in the JSA movie, she was with Steve, and it seemed like she was very much the golden age Wonder Woman, where she was giving Steve a hard time, didn't really care for him until he died, which was kind of, I mean,
Yeah.
that was like kind of cold, but at the same time, it's like, wow. And still, she gave Clark a pet name, Shakespeare. And even when he showed up and she was his inspiration to put on the suit, she they kind of like have this moment of like he basically saying that he is supposed to be there, and they have this moment of looking at each other until Steve calls out for her for his last moments, then she starts crying. But at the same time, we have fast forward to this movie where she's basically saying my Clark. So it's like, okay, so off screen, her and that Superman must have gotten close, closer than,
It could be after like the death, but still, I don't want to see it off screen. Stop with the off screen BS. If you don't have time to explain this pretty big piece of continuity, do it.
Yeah, right. And it's just like I said, with the Tomorrowverse, it was a fresh start. I mean, what when you interviewed Sam, he said it that they were basically blindsided by that the New 52 Rebirth, whatever,
Was that
the Tuckerverse was ending. And honestly, to me, it was very much a lot of karma going in with that. My devil horns was kind of up because
you were like on a throne going, go on.
Because it was kind of like a lot of the things that DC was doing out of spite, especially with Tomasi, especially with the comics, especially with the Tuckerverse. It was that once they got rid of Superman and Wonder Woman, things just tumbled. It like everything stopped. So the Tuckerverse, a breakup off screen, trying to put him with Lois, Wonder Woman solo movie was a disaster. Even with sales, it only Sam, he said they only get like 3 million or 2 million for a budget. Well, her movie only made 1 million back. So that
maybe you shouldn't be vindictive to fans. And by the way, Britt, you mentioned Tomasi's name, so I'm sorry, I gotta play this.
Why did you say that name?
I'm sorry, but yeah, he's and then Tomasi, I said it again.
I'm gonna get a copyright strike because of all this, but it's fine. I'll keep going.
He his run for Superman Rebirth, it was cut short for Bendis. Which
now I gotta play it for that guy too. Jeez. There's too many people who must not be named.
Right. So that was kind of like, well, Tomasi felt bad, and he was salty for how he was treated, blindsided. So it's kind of like, okay, so now you know how we felt as fans being blindsided.
He really became a ghost machine, in other words, is what you're telling me. I had to. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if that's one of the reasons he's like, you know what? Because they did kind of screw him repeatedly, which now you know how it feels. But also, I kind of feel bad for him. So you know what? You deserve to leave DC. There you go. Go.
Even though he has the Sinister Sons, like he can't let go of a Super Sons concept, which I have no idea why. But
it doesn't even sell that well, so I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, this is definitely, and the thing is, they are turning Chris Kent, that was his name. They're turning him evil, so those fans of that storyline is not going to support the book. So yeah, that's just basically dead on arrival. But back to this. So you have this budget of 2 million, and these movies, Death of Superman, it's a gimmick. And the fact that you use the Justice League, you changed it so it's not the original characters, it's not really the original story. And it's like the popularity of the New 52 movies, regardless of the controversy, they still sold.
The beginning ones more so because they were less like actually. I don't know if you saw this. So we were talking about Batman Hush and why it kind of failed, the movie. And someone came up with the greatest argument as to why these movies failed. You ready?
Yeah.
They said their problem was they were trying to fit pre-New 52 stories in the New 52 continuity, and it didn't work.
Exactly.
I was like,
and
wow.
Yeah, and that's what New 50 and that's what Death of Superman, because it just came out of nowhere. You have this buildup of a relationship of Clark and Diana being honest with each other and everything. The Kent's not alive, obviously, you know, and then you do a 180 off screen where the Kents somehow are alive, where they break up, and his attitude is totally different, especially towards Diana. He becomes a major a-hole towards her. Like he just never cared for her. Or like I believe Tucker did say he wanted to do like the Action Comics 600 thing where they go on a date but it doesn't work or something. It's
But
like,
they've already
okay,
gone on a date and it works. So
they've
what are you doing?
not only gone on a date, they've been dating
They've been dating
for,
since like sort of Atlantis, and that was like a lot of years ago. So what are you doing? That's my problem. It's like because here's the thing, I could have taken the Death of Superman story if they kept the SuperWonder thing in time. That's why I say what you want about Superman Doom, the storyline from the New 52. That was cool because it told basically this storyline, but in a new and different way. Because yes, technically, if he stayed Doomsday, Superman would be dead. But speaking of
yeah,
death, and by the way, it's kind of funny. I always love my favorite line from Infinite Crisis is when Batman goes to Superman. The last time you inspired anyone is when you were dead.
yeah,
I
yeah,
love that.
and that is very much still relevant for today because DC is still doing the gimmick of Death of Superman. And
Yeah.
also with going back to the movies real quick,
Mhm.
even when they have their first date and Lois comes in, she basically belittles Clark and stuff and says like he's if this is a date, like why are you taking her to this, dump of a restaurant or something? So she tried Lois tried to embarrass him,
It's a Greek cafe.
and it's like, how did you go from her basically belittling him and trying to embarrass him to they supposedly are in
Off
love or whatever?
screen. But I love when she shows up. She shakes hands with Diana, and then she comments on Diana having a strong grip because Diana's like, "Nice to meet you."
Yeah, trying to intimidate Diana too. And it's like,
You're intimidated Wonder Woman. Yeah, that's gonna turn out real well for you.
yeah, I really don't understand how you can go from that to this and think that's good storytelling. I don't care if you are into the classic, and still that's not even classic. If you're going into this status quo and then but the characters have to turn into uh revisionist and this 180 that doesn't make sense to the previous movies. And a lot of people questioned it too. And Tucker did get mad because he was like, well, that's the, preferred or whatever. But he's
According to who?
basically,
Because sales wise, no, it's not.
yeah. But it was basically like, did we miss a movie? What happened? Why was this done off screen? Of course, Lois fans will be happy and make it seem like, yeah, this was done off screen and all of that. But the storytelling wise, it was terrible.
And by the way, this would save this for a future episode because we could actually talk about the entire DC animated movie history of Superman and Wonder Woman and talk about this exact same thing.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So back to this. The thing about this is that first you have the Burton Batman movies, and I think that's partly what made Batman like the sales juggernaut that it became. And it's like, well, it's not entirely unbelievable because they are pretty dope movies. And the thing is, this part of the documentary led to my absolute favorite quote when Mike Carlin was saying, "How people tell I saw in the movie thing, how could you kill Superman? When was the last time you bought Superman? Oh, 20 years. I didn't kill Superman. You did. You can't not tend for a flower and not tend to a flower and not expect it to die." And I was like, oh my gosh, I love Mike Carlin so much.
Yes. Because the Tim Burton movies and Batman, um, we skipped that part. But with Batman,
Oh, okay,
he
yeah.
was the with Adam West and
Mhm,
kind of like played as a joke and stuff like that. So they made him more serious, especially with Frank Miller, um,
mhm,
re revitalizing the character and giving a different perspective, not actually stripping Batman away from anything. He
mhm,
added to Batman's lore, yeah, and made it darker. But that is what the audience was shifting towards, was anti-heroes and the more darker content. And Marvel, of course, was giving that
mhm.
content too. So while the audience wanted more realism, wanted more darker anti-heroes, you have Superman, who's now been turned into a quote unquote romance hero, who's this Boy Scout, goody two shoes. No one cared for that. And it really also confirmed that this was nothing more than a gimmick.
Yeah.
That they wanted Superman to have like this big attention grabbing story, which of course you do that, but their idea was very much a quick cash grabbing gimmick. And that has Batman, the movie started the collector's boom,
Mhm,
of getting like rare type things, the um special covers and stuff like that, special items that even came with comic books and stuff, you know.
mhm.
But with trying to, ride that coattail for Superman and all the variant covers, everything like that for Death of Superman, and you think that the character is like dead for good, then 6 months later you bring him back. It's like now that stuff is worthless, because when for collectors, what it's a rarity of things. It's like if I had, I don't know, a perfume bottle um from a company that is going out of business, and it's the only perfume bottle that was generated, that was made. That is a collector's item because it might become valuable one day. But if that same company comes back and makes the same bottle, then it's nothing unique about the one that I have. So that's what the collectors have done with all these variant covers that DC, Marvel does it too, but really DC is relying on these covers that so many people can, you know, honestly print from the internet, that some people don't even buy them anymore. They're just like
Or look
using.
like they're AI generated. Hint, hint.
Exactly. So yeah, so Death of Superman caused a massive crash for, and the realization that maybe trying to cater to collectors and do these gimmicks weren't good. But of course, they um, fell into the hole in doing gimmicks anyway, and they are stuck doing gimmicks even now.
Yeah, exactly. And this is also, we have like a lot of sexualization of the characters, which to a degree, I mean, these are supposed to be like hyper idealized versions of humanity, because Wonder Woman is not supposed to represent a realistic portrayal of a woman. She is supposed to be like this statuesque, like Amazon and such. So I get the idea of it. It's just also in the 90s, it did go overboard. I will admit that 100%. So then we get, oh boy, this wonderful, wonderful tale. So they, so Kingdom Come. All right, so this was a response to like a lot of stuff, primarily also the emergence of Image Comics, and it was the idea that, okay, You have the Joker gasses the Daily Planet, kills Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen, and shockingly enough, Superman has not become a dictator. Suck it, Tom Taylor. But essentially, Magog shows up, kills the Joker, and then everyone applauds him, and then Superman yeets out. And then, wait, who should come and bring him back to humanity, thereby restoring his humanity? Wonder Woman. Gasp. Tell me it ain't so, Britt, because I thought being with Wonder Woman means Superman loses his humanity, but in this case, it ends up regaining his humanity.
Right. And also, I believe Dan Jurgens was the first to write the if Lois dies, Superman turns into a dictator.
Oh God.
Yeah, I
Yet another time, another time Dan Jurgens becomes a one-trick pony because everything he writes has to be Death of Superman related.
Yeah. So I will have to find that issue number, but yeah. So the first ever of Lois dying dictator Superman is Jurgens, which of course he is the one that tried to make Lois the co-star of the franchise. So yeah, that's where that comes from. And to think that he criticizes New 52,
considering his characterization, it's also the funny thing. He critiqued the SnyderVerse, and I go, dude, you literally created one of the darkest DC timelines. Shut up.
He critiqued the he did, because he sure did turn a different tune when for the black suit and using Doomsday.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about Mark Waid. No, Dan Jurgens has always. Well, here's the thing. Every creative, it seems, that has worked on Superman has critiqued it because like Superman can't ever be dark, and I'm like, okay, Jurgens, you created the darkest Superman story. Waid, darkest Superman timeline. Stop it.
Yeah, the only thing about with Waid, his Kingdom Come is not his story. It is Alex Ross.
Mm-hmm.
So he just came into basically the idea that Ross had. It's like, I need a writer who can expand on it, who can, kind of put the word in a dialogue in a more cohesive type way. But the whole story is not his, which I don't really like, that he has taken the story and he criticizes it, but also he uses it like this is what I'm known for, and he references it even now in World's Finest. He is putting this Earth's Prime Earth, whatever, Batman and Superman on Kingdom Come's
How much you want to bet when they show up, Wonder Woman and Superman will have broken up, and they're like, yeah, we realized we were never meant to be together. Honestly, that wouldn't surprise me.
Well, he can't really, he said that he's not doing any, like, what happens within it, because they have, like, 5 kids together, and also they have already written the ending, like, within the JSA. Alex already had the ending of them.
Thank you, Alex Ross.
Yeah, the 1,000-year timeline of Clark being an old man, Diana dying between the 500 and 1,000 years. So yeah, so that's already done. So he can't really do that. His story for World's Finest is about the Thunder Boy who turns into Magog.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I mean, that would be really petty, because the story has nothing to do with with anything, it's an Elseworlds, and it's also the like main Elseworld that everyone knows for DC. And it's also, like I said, it has its ending. So you're basically crapping on Alex if you even try to change the ending. But no, I don't think he will do that. I hope not.
I'm just saying, I've been burned too many times by DC. Can you really blame me for being a little concerned?
No, I don't blame you at all. Every time, honestly, when Superman and Wonder Woman are mentioned together for DC, it's kind of like I do have this sort of hesitation, and my mind does go, very far left.
But,
because we can't trust them. We really can't. As a fandom, they have burned, and it was purposely done. But the thing is, it shouldn't be a surprise that we see them actually being friends or have like these romantic teases. That shouldn't be a surprise. It should be like, yeah, duh, that's supposed to happen. But it's now not a surprise if we see a DC writer being petty and trying to throw the dynamic under the bus.
Yeah, that's the thing about DC is that they claim that they're friends, but we don't see them being friends. We don't even see them together at all, except in like the Justice League book, and even in there they don't interact that much. So I'm like, where's the friendship?
Yeah, DC has really, when the thing is with their friendship, it has to have the romance, that kind of underlying type thing with it. But because of the marriage and trying to have Lois in a prominent, type role, having a woman that's pretty much better than her be your best friend is kind of weird. It's
But still, then don't push her as Clark's best friend. That's the thing, is that DC put themselves in this position.
because it was a natural fit, though, that they are to be partners. And I see this a lot now too, are that they are work spouses. And I have referenced them as work spouses, that even if they aren't romantically linked, they still have this like marriage, though. They act like an old married couple. So, and it's a natural thing to think of them as a couple, as a, and they are. In the Superman and Wonder Woman collectibles, they call them partners in justice. So it's like, how can you do one thing, call them partners, call them, even in the encyclopedia, say they're like star-crossed lovers or whatever, or star-crossed, but within the context of the books now, you want to basically like isolate them, or they are now just acquaintances.
Yep, right here.
Yeah.
Yes,
so,
I have this.
And that was 2019, 2020. So yeah, it is right there outside of the books. And you have these, now we have Wonder Woman 800.
Yeah.
Which was very surprising. Like when it was first solicited that it was going to be Diana going into her friends and enemies' dreams, I was like, oh wow, they're going to probably have like Clark dreaming of like this perfect paradise thing with Lois and John.
Nope. Again, it is hilarious where not only is his best friend a more beautiful and more perfect woman, he never dreams about Lois from what we've seen.
No, every dream, he either has a dream about Lena or Diana. It's One of those two.
It's astounding.
Yeah. So with back with Kingdom Come, with the industry basically crashing or whatever, Kingdom Come gave a refresher. And like you said, it was the heroes, it was an answer to all the darkness and the anti-hero violence and the trying to make characters sexy and all that kind of stuff. It was like, okay, you need to reel it back in, because what the comics code and the parents then thought kids will get into, crazy stuff. This is basically much worse than, what they show. You had Lobo, you had, was the Boys at that time? Or something?
Boys came in like, Boys...
Or was like the
yeah, that was early 2000s.
2000s?
In the era of Bush, yeah.
But you had something similar to that. Earlier than that, you did have these X-rated comics and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so maybe, you do need to reel it in a little bit, rein in for these kids not to have that type of influence. So that is what Kingdom Come is. It is very much an old guard type story, but it makes sense and it's timeless, because it is about, like I always say, with Diana's characterization, and to try to critique her, it's like, okay, she was stripped of everything, so of course she's going to be frustrated. She's going to be like how she had to make the sacrifice, or that she is going on her last option of, if blood has to be shed, let it be. But
well, she's a warrior too, so I'm like, wait a second here. She is a Amazon warrior. Everyone seems to forget that.
Yeah, and with that time of what's going on, it's not like she just, like, the first thing she told him to just start going, start lasering people. She never said that. She's like, she tried to get him to come back and basically be the leader. Come help me gather these, basically, the kids, and discipline them in a civilized manner. But that didn't work. So that's when the war came. And she still tried to maintain her warrior of peace aspect, and because that they end up together, that's the only reason why her characterization, I feel, is criticized.
Yep. 100. By the way, we should do an episode where we do a deep dive on Kingdom Come. I think that'd be really fun.
Definitely.
So my other favorite quote comes from Dennis Cohen, one of the co-founders of Milestone Media. He goes, you have to constantly pump new life into these characters. He goes, I always say, it ain't the characters, it's the creators. And I'm like, again, this is why this documentary is so great, because it's literally, it seems like this documentary was created in such a way to basically say the New 52 was actually a fantastic thing. So, ha ha ha.
Yeah, and it's, like I said, it's a lot of sugarcoating, in a sense of, still, DC is basically like it's very self-aware, but it's very embarrassing with the fact that they are admitting the problems, but it's that obviously they haven't learned from the problems. It's like, yeah, they know, what they're doing or what they're not doing. It's the fact that the creators, though, are just very, and what Dan said, what we talked about last week.
They're cowards. And the ones that reacted very positively to those quotes.
Yeah. Yeah, they're lazy or they're scared. And it's like, wow, DC has been lazy and scared for a very long time.
And I pulled this quote from Jim Lee, where he basically said, when the character's been around for 80 years, you can go one of two ways. Number one is to be very traditional in your approach, the cowardly way. I added that part. And then to chart a different path to really revolutionize the universe, to change things and give voice to different people. And I'm like, that's what they went with the New 52. And you know what? It did fantastically. It was just like, and that's the thing. Every time DC tries to like adapt, guess what? Well, not every time, because arguably everything from Infinite Frontier and on was them trying to adapt. Let me put it this way. Pre-Rebirth, when they tried to adapt, it did lead to help in the beginning, and then they squandered it. Same thing with the New 52. I always say, if they had not had like DC YOU and then Convergence, and then to a lesser extent Future's End, it would not have turned out that bad.
Right. Yeah. The Crisis, Kingdom Come, and New 52. Those three, or Flashpoint, New 52.
Kind of, yeah.
Those three events, or, pretty much has saved DC. It was all about a fresh start. The Crisis was a fresh start. New 52 was a fresh start of getting away from the baggage of, continuity, just confusion of trying to place the characters in modern times, and then with Kingdom Come, it was about don't go too far, but we still have the old guard, but at the same time, it is embracing the new, which was embracing the new in the right way, though, which was the birth of, or Clark and Diana having Jonathan, which represented the older heroes passing down the torch in the right way. That is what,
or like in Kingdom Come, where at the end of the timeline that Alex charted at the end of JSA, it's Clark looking up in the sky and seeing his children with the Legion.
Yeah, that is the right way to go. And it's funny that 2 out of 3 had Clark and Diana together, and
I know, it's almost as if DC is trying to tell us something. It's like DC is actually a hostage and they're trying to type out a secret note.
Yeah, it's but at the same time, I mean, we get it, we understand it,
understand it because we're not blinded by nostalgia. That's the thing.
Exactly. So I find this very contradictory and hypocritical of Jim Lee to say this, but you reverse and go back to what made you need the reboot in the first place.
Yeah, to quote Dan.
Yeah, you go back to the with Superman modernized with New 52 Action Comics by Morrison, and you basically call him a fake, which he is a modernized Golden Age Superman. But your classic, the real Superman is just post-crisis. Superman wasn't invented or debuted in 1986. He was invented in 1938, and New 52 was definitely, like, we know for sure now because of this documentary, was the modernized Golden Age. And to call that fake is very, very unprofessional.
Particularly for someone that works at DC.
And then And then with saying that his suit,
Mm-hmm.
he said that the trunks
Yeah.
was always supposed to come back. But it's kind of like, why?
It's them.
When
No, you know what it is? It's them trying to rewrite history to say, oh, we were old. It's like when I had a friend of mine try and tell me that, like, oh, from the very beginning, they knew that Superman and Wonder Woman was not going to last in the new 52. They knew it was going to be temporary. They always intended that. And I'm like, based on what facts? He said he claims that Tony Daniels said that. Well, I'm like, that may be true. But as soon as they got back the numbers from that book, they were like, nope, keep it permanent, until they decided not to. But that's besides the point.
So did he like talk to Tony Daniel? Was this
That's what he
quoted from
says.
him?
And he does get around and talk to creatives. So I'm inclined to believe that. And I'm like, yeah, that could have been the plan when they started the book. But when they conceptualized the book in the New 52, but when you saw the reaction to it and how it consistently had high sales, that's when you had no reason to cancel it. You should have gone, okay, if we had plans to break them up, cancel them.
Exactly, because with I mean, you was going to introduce Donna with the book. And Charles had plans that were cut short. So if it was supposed to be short, what do you mean by short term? But then at the same time, you go with New 52 though, of how that was cut. So I don't know.
Honestly,
Like
I
you
think it's a
said,
lot of people trying to dodge responsibility. So they're probably like, okay, just tell them it was all intentional that we would sabotage the company.
yeah, that's basically what this seems like. For Jim Lee to say this about the characters need to be
Updated,
modernized and
particularly when
updated.
you and Jeff Johns were two of the architects of the SnyderVerse. Let's not forget about that.
Right. But then you backtrack when the vocal minority of Twitter has a problem. Then you say, well, it's only temporary, or it was or you cut it short without even if it did sell. Superman and Wonder Woman sold, and you haven't had a unless it's Superman and Batman, you haven't had a partner book or team up book that sold that much. Trinity sold less.
Like not just less, dramatically less.
Yeah. Super Sons sold less. The Convergence Lois and Clark spinoff sold
You know
massively
my
less.
feelings of that spinoff. I don't want to go on another rant about why that spinoff is BS.
Yeah. That, I mean, just embarrassing less. So, like I said, for you to say this, but do the opposite, just really, DC is self-dragging itself for no reason. If you have a concept that obviously works, you bring people in. You don't push them out. You bring people in that can make this concept work for as long as it can. You don't just settle for a status quo because it's easy. And the thing also with people saying that Superman and Wonder Woman's relationship is easy, obviously it wasn't. And even Tomasi, he even admitted saying that trying to have Clark and Diana in the spotlight, especially Diana, it was difficult because she demanded the spotlight. Well, it's like, no, crap, Sherlock, because she is the co-star or whatever within this book. It's her book too, 50-50. So she is supposed to be in the spotlight. And for you to not be able to write her as she's supposed to be, as a main character, as a main female, first, his he went stereotypical with the warrior aspect, that she's like this cold,
Yeah. The thing that really showed me that it was like really going off the rails is when Tomasi brought in the artificial drama about the whole God of War thing. And I'm like, they addressed this literally in volume 1.
yeah, and it was like what he wanted to do was have them, like, he said that no conflict, no story. But you obviously don't know the conflict. You didn't, he, it seemed like he purposely did not read what Soul built.
That is why I'm 100% convinced that he didn't read the previous books to get prepared. He just showed up.
Yeah, he definitely, or he didn't even want to, because he said that that was the honeymoon phase and he was trying to do like something totally different, which again, your totally different was to purposely screw up the relationship. And the thing is, when he could write them as a couple as he did within Final Days, but it was kind of like it's too late because you didn't actually understand, or you didn't try to understand the relationship in, in when at the beginning. And for this book to fall dramatically in sales because of his writing, as a writer, like I said, this is why I don't feel bad and had my basically devil horns up, because you ruined a book that sold, but you are salty because the book that you actually want to sell, or was cut short, or that it didn't get the sales that you wanted. He had like 3 chances with Super Sons, and each one sold less than the last. And it's like, obviously this concept has a niche, and it's basically a Twitter niche, but the general audience does not care. Even with the Super Sons animated movie, it basically sold much less when it first debuted. It is, as of course with the inflation and stuff like that, it has rose up a little bit, but even that, for that movie to not make the impact that DC expected it to have. So you have these expectations on certain things that end up disappointing you, but then you don't have the expectations of things that actually is impactful for the company, whether controversial or not.
I mean, look, because you can even see this in the movies, because remember, they moved away from the SnyderVerse under the belief that if they moved away from the SnyderVerse, they would get to all these like Marvel success. Guess what didn't happen? And funnily enough, Nick, the other co-host on the show, he did an analysis, and with inflation, BVS is now $1 billion movie. So DC had $1 billion movie franchise and threw it away for Twitter people. Again, it just utterly astounds me how similar the story of the New 52 and the SnyderVerse is.
Well, that's the thing too, is that the comparison is DCU was inspired by New 52.
To a degree,
So,
yeah.
yeah. So when I see the comparison sometimes, and like, except for, like we said, is Superman Cavill's, he was majority of post-crisis. Had a little bit of sprinkles of New 52, but majority. So when people say that New 52 and DCEU was bad, it's like in how the stories, because it was inspired by the New 52, made DCEU a failure or whatever. It's kind of like, no, that's not it, because it was a success. It was controversial because it leaned more to realism. It also, like we said, but that's the fault of WB though, that they tried to rush and catch up to Marvel. So
Yeah.
yeah. So with the like it's the quote, slow and steady wins the race. That's
Yeah.
basically all that DC had to do, was be patient. And now, um, now that we see that the lighter tones of DC movies actually bombed, so
Once it bombed, if it bombs with Superman Legacy, which let's be honest, it's looking like it will, because even people that are pro James Gunn are now saying it doesn't have to make a lot of money. It just has to be like successful, like in terms of the like critic score. And I'm like, what planet are you living on? But the point is, when it doesn't do well, that's when I think that could be a wake-up call, because it's like, if a happy-go-lucky Superman movie can't do well, written and directed by the head of DC, there's something wrong here.
I honestly think it'll make like not even the same or a little bit under Man of Steel. That's my
That would be hilarious if Man of Steel, because Man of Steel is considered by the Twitter fan base a flop. That'd be hilarious if it makes less, and they're like, well, actually, no, it's not. And I'm like, well, actually, according to your logic, yeah, it is. But anyway, back to this. So, anyway, this documentary is actually pretty congratulatory to Zack Snyder, so we'll touch on that. Then we get this fantastic moment for Wonder Woman, and you actually did a post about this on the Diana and Cal Instagram page, and you actually posted this clip, and it's astounding. This is one of the occasions of a creative fighting for a scene, because again, DC didn't want to have this scene of Superman like crying, and because they felt like, oh, he should always be like the strong thing that everyone like looks up to, and I'm like, but here's why that doesn't work, because you also are saying that Lois Lane brings him humanity, but you don't want him to show his humanity. The point is, it doesn't make sense. But what this works as a Wonder Woman moment is that, see, the most powerful man in the world is breaking down in your arms. He's holding the lasso of truth, so you know this is what he's saying. And like, she's like, no, we will get through this. And again, it's another way they look perfect together.
Yeah, this really surprised me, because out of all moments, this is a moment that really speaks, and it's also a response to 9/11, and it's very real and emotional. And yes, when I posted this, I didn't really expect the response that I got, and on TikTok too, and to see the people, the responses, and how impactful this showed, and how people were saying that they are grateful that they saw this, to see Superman crying, to see Wonder Woman holding him. It showed not just the pair as as a romance. That's totally not even what this scene is about. It's just about like a comfort that the strongest man, even when he's down, you have this strong woman that is comforting him, and giving that. It really showed their friendship too. Highlighted that. And yeah, he has the lasso of truth, but he never really broke down like this. You don't see that with Lois.
It could be because he doesn't feel like, I mean, it could be interpreted as he doesn't feel like he can really be human with Lois. Funny how that works.
Yeah, this human thing, but he doesn't. He sometimes show how sad he is, or like he's sad. But to actually break down like this, I don't think there's ever been a panel, or like this.
No, there hasn't.
And even just just to show that Clark and Diana can truly be open and vulnerable together. It spoke volumes. So with this, and I really didn't expect even Jimenez to respond when I tagged him.
Oh, really?
I really didn't, because I was just thinking, I just tagged it and tagged the documentary was from and everything like that. So as always, I just think that people are going to respond, but like I said, I didn't think the response was going to be where they are emotional about it. And so what even DC, they posted it too. And I wrote the caption that I wrote on the on my page, I wrote on the Wonder Woman Instagram, and even that got a response. And I was like, wow, that this is very much an impactful panel. And why isn't DC giving us even more actual stories like this, especially with Clark and Diana?
Because you're supposed to be able to do that with Lois.
Right. So my caption was, Superman's true strength and power is of a man that can show his vulnerability and be open to his emotions. Superman and Wonder Woman are the most powerful heroes, not just of physical strength, but also, and most importantly, on an emotional level. They are the most human, compassionate, understanding, selfless, and aspirational heroes, the mother and father of the superhero genre. This is a powerful, impactful, important moment needed. So, yeah, so with that caption and the quotes and the comments that I had, it actually kind of brought me into tears, because like I said, it's so confusing and frustrating, because just this panel can bring out a true emotion with fans. Like, it's nowadays with DC, they have these gimmick panels or something of trying to sexualize the character or trying to make something funny. But to have a real, raw, emotional panel or story, they don't care for that anymore.
No, they don't.
But that's what you need.
That's what you do need. So, yeah, and 100%. When was the last time we had this? By the way, I'll talk this, but I had an idea for a project that you and I are working on that involves this. So I'll talk to you after this. But so then we get the New 52. Well, first we get like the Nolan Batman films, which again led to a sales boost. Then DC again led to a sales bust. And then so DiDio actually had a very good way of thinking about this. He's like, no, Marvel's not my competition. TV and movies are, because I'm competing for people's attention. And if people start going to the movies first, then I'm irrelevant at this point. And the interesting thing is that then he brings up that the New 52 is an opportunity to reach a new fan base, an entry point without luggage. You modernize the characters, you make them younger so people can like identify with them. And then I love where the editor of Den of Geek says, a fairly or unfairly with fans, DC is constantly trying to like reboot things. And then it says that with a New 52, it got people into comic shops. And but it is important to like respect the past, but also like update things. And that's why I feel like it's messing a lot, because the phrase updating for the modern audience is like a dirty word now in the fandom world, because a lot of the times when they try to update it, they don't do that's respectful to the past.
Well, I mean, you can still go and read the past books.
True.
And the thing is, though, they can't blame New 52 for not respecting the past, because post-crisis did not respect the past.
No. It wiped out the past, as a matter of fact. It's called
Yeah,
Crisis.
and Superman was like a total 360 of what the character or who he's supposed to be. So, that at least with Perez, with Wonder Woman, they didn't have the technology. Well, and the whole thing with Hercules and Hippolyta with the, you know, that weird relationship.
Oh yeah.
Um, Diana kind of being a little bit younger, a little bit more a
Naive,
free
maybe?
spirit, naive, yeah, and a fish out of water, but it worked in a good way that you can actually like take that and expand on it. So even if he didn't have like the um technology and the advanced like science or something like that, or even if he didn't, like with her supporting cast, some people say that but no, he did broaden her cast in a sense of made it more female empowerment, or more with the role of a female. Because with Steve, we already talked about this. I don't care for him, and trying
He's
to make
he's the
him
most useless, redundant character in DC, short of Lois Lane.
right, irrelevant. And Diana, to have like the first guy she meets is supposed to be like her love interest is just weird. She doesn't
It
have
is.
any type of experience, and it's just the first guy. I That doesn't make any sense. And that's not exactly giving, she's not a Disney princess. She's, you know, so even Perez, with Diana being a free spirit and naive, he didn't make her a Disney princess. He wanted her to be so much more independent, and her support was Julia and Vanessa, which was so much better because again, it gave emphasis on the female supporting cast and what she's supposed to represent as a female. Um, so yeah, that worked. But with Superman and Post Crisis, it just stripped away his uniqueness, and for long term too, the character has drastically lost popularity, and it's not because of New 52, it's because of Post Crisis. Like,
And the over like attachment to post crisis, because that's really what you do. That's the problem with relying too much on nostalgia. And actually, Dan Didio brings up this point. He said that the New 52 brought a little swagger to DC, and you have to get people excited now, as excited to read these now as they were when they were kids. That was the mission, and the New 52 was the belief of that mission, because really what it was is, hey, let's get people excited to get in on the ground floor of comics, because that's never happened since like maybe Crisis, because everything was starting over from the beginning. And that's when I came into DC, because I didn't have to read anything. It was also that, and ironically, the CBR article about Superman and Wonder Woman first kissing in Justice League 12. I was like, okay, I could see this. Then we get to the movies, and I've said so many times that the level of BS-ery the New 52 is exactly the BS-ery that was Warner Brothers in this. Because since you had, it was kind of funny, when the Snyder cut came out, now everyone's like, oh, that was the plan the whole time? I actually want to see this. Can you continue? And Warner Brothers was like, no.
yeah, in any type of interesting idea, Warner Brothers is allergic to it, basically. And with, like I said, this documentary and the quotes and everything that they're talking about are giving gave me a total different perspective. And like I said, we always give our opinions, but within our opinions, we have facts. And this documentary gave us a lot of facts to back up and confirm everything that we've talked about.
I mean,
And
that's why I reacted so, like, I don't want to say violently, but so very viscerally last week to the quotes by Taddeo, because it was like, we've been saying this for 15 episodes now, and then to have the official sources then back up what we're saying, I'm like, oh, so this is what it feels like to be so right. Wow.
yeah. But at the same time, you say this in this documentary, and like I said, it's very self-drag and self-awareness, but you do the total opposite. So with trying to synergize the comics and movies with the movies and the status quo of using Death of Superman, you gave Jargon's clout to where he used that clout to destroy New 52 and bring back post-crisis. And his very first story for Rebirth was Doomsday.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have you also have where Dan DiDio says that for the first time with New 52, they had print and digital. And the thing is, within that time, print and digital was on the rise. And now digital is only like 10% or 5%. That's like,
well, on that, it was just like announced this week that Amazon is basically shutting down Comixology. And I'm like, yeah, that's the example. And the thing about the New 52 as well is that, and they brought this up, and like even the Jim Lee documentary, is that when they did the day and date digital, there was that concern that people are going to buy their comics only digitally. And first off, anyone that believed that was a little too afraid, because here's the thing about comics themselves. They are collectibles, and digital collectibles will never be a thing. Number one. Number two, the reason why they did day and date digital is they recognized that, okay, not everyone lives close to a comic shop. So let's give people the opportunity to still be able to like get in with the books. And what they saw is that they were growing together to grow the industry. One was not outpacing the other. They were just going together. And there is a way for both to exist. Because I got news for you. In today's world, you need a digital element. You can't be totally physical. You just have to make it so there's like a nice little balance there.
Yeah, but the thing is, not only the fans, quote unquote, are not buying the physical copies, but they aren't even buying digital either.
Well, technically, they are consuming the digital product.
Yes,
it's just from certain sites. Yeah, exactly.
Right. That's completely free. So yeah, digital comics have gone way down where Comixology now does not exist. Well, December 4th, it will be completely
absorbed, really is the phrase. So
and then you have where people don't even want the physical copies, because what Rebirth was the long boxes of collectors and all that. But now people are saying, like, with the books, they don't have enough room to collect them. So yeah, you would want digital if you can't collect them in your long boxes, but they don't even want to do that. So, but with the print and digital, Superman and Wonder Woman of Justice League 12 was actually named the fastest selling and the highest selling digital comic. So that boosted digital sales. And it's kind of like, okay, so if, again, Superman and Wonder Woman are the common denominator of DC's success, in bringing forth like new age. If it's not Batman, it's Superman and Wonder Woman together in some type of way.
So
So
do
yeah,
it.
so yeah,
That's the astounding thing, Britt. And it's the most damning thing that I've ever seen is when Charles Sewell, it was either Charles or Tony tweeted that, yeah, it was canceled, not because of sales, but because they wanted to go in a different direction. So you took what was obviously performing well and what the fans obviously wanted, and you took away what the fans wanted. That's not the way you run a business. And this is what I tell people all the time on Twitter that tell me that, no, the book should focus on more like what rates more, not necessarily what sells more. And I go, that would work in a scenario where DC were not a business. Here's what people don't understand. DC is not a charity. It's a business. It needs to make money. It needs to pay people. If DC sales were better, they probably could afford to pay their creatives more and keep the A-listers.
right. Yeah, exactly. They are now, first they slashed the paper. I think they're using like cheaper paper to print because they obviously can't afford better paper or something. They can't afford artists, creatives, and I'm, uh, it's no means of dragging anyone or anything like that, but kind of like mediocre and cheap. They're going the cheap route with creatives and anything else. And even the stories, they are hyping up these certain things like the Wonder Woman artist. He hyped up Cassie's new redesign and it's very plain. Like the only thing that she changed was like her jacket to be a jean jacket and her skirt to just be leggings, black leggings with a star on them. But it's you're hyping up these things to get people to, again, you're trying to entice the speculators, the collectors, but the product, when it comes out, is very underwhelming. So,
Yeah.
but as long as you get that quick boost, you feel like, that's quick money, but it crashes and burns long term to where now, again, DC's books they can barely have ongoings. They can only do mini books now.
And they can only like think in terms of arcs and not in massive stories.
Right. So, I mean, again, with New 52, yeah, like what the Neo said, he said that the second year was difficult because the first year was trying to plan out what was going to happen with the new designs and everything like that. The second year was pretty much like, okay, where do we need to go to keep this momentum going?
And that was the problem. What they should have done is done more planning in the beginning stages of like the story, like 5 years out, see what works, pivot a little bit, but still.
I mean, I would fault WB because they was at a rush with that. So I don't really fault the New 52 planning because when they say it's rushed, yes, but why was it rushed? It was because of WB.
And
yeah, second Warner Brothers.
Right. So I really just, when the Twitter fans use that, I was like, well, you need to know why. It's not, they didn't just rush it, just, just because. It was because of WB, because they were going to shut them down. And of course, to completely shut comics down, like I said, it's very embarrassing. This documentary showed that DC has had trouble since basically its conception. So yeah, that's what it is. But these fans aren't making it any better when they are talking major crap on Twitter
and not supporting the books.
but not supporting the books. And now you have digital sales that are flat or dwindling, and especially again how comiXology is being absorbed. But even with DC, I think Infinite or whatever they have, their digital site, I think it's not even like worldwide. So you have a limit there.
I will say though, they do have some great perks because as an Ultra subscriber, they send me a graphic novel once a year. So I'm like,
Oh,
sweet. They're not going to do this for a Superman and Wonder Woman book, but still, I'm like, I appreciate the gesture to send me a whole trade.
right. I mean, of course not. They don't want anyone to actually read a good book.
Yeah,
So,
exactly right. They just want to hold up the crap books. But in the meantime, this is a great topic to continue in a future episode. But let's start wrapping this up. So this was a fantastic. And drop us down below your thoughts on the documentary. Anything we said. If you have any valid refutations based on facts and not on your own personal feelings on the books, that's fine. Drop it in there. We'd love to hear it. So in the meantime, Britt, do you have any teases for any future stories for us?
yeah, well, so it's Thanksgiving week. So, of course, I'm going to have upload galore. But, of course, you're getting little exclusives of some of the...
I'm the Access Media.
right, of the one-shots that I've been doing. I want them to be short, but I can't help myself, and I have to go in detail. So that's why it's taking a little bit longer.
Isn't that the best when you start off going, okay, this is going to be really, really short? Oh.
No, it turns into like a whole 2 chapters or something like that. So more Austria, more tonight, and updating of other stories like the Athens story. And then my emotional roller coaster collaboration with you. Now this story is really my focus.
I went nuts with the action in this, and there was times where I'm like, did I go too far? Then I was like, screw it.
No, it was perfect. And my focus really is on this story because it is so emotionally drawn. And yeah, so honestly, after this, I'm going to go write some more with the story.
We're happy stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Honestly, I have to keep it balanced. The emotional part, I cry and listen to those sad songs or whatever, and then I turn around and go, I have to write like Austria playing with crypto or playing with whatever pet she has, or she's beating Strife something funny. I have to, because my emotions is going up and down.
Well, trust me, you're not off that roller coaster yet.
I know.
Oh boy, I'm gonna enjoy this. But anyway, we'll have more details on that as we get close to launch date, but more on that in the future. So anyway, stay heroic, everyone, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye-bye.